Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Hope you're doing well this evening.
I am surviving. I mean, the holiday, Thanksgiving, the prelude to Christmas is over.
It is.
Survived.
Yeah, survived it. Did not go Black Friday shopping yet online or anything, but but yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. Got some R&R in, which was nice, and yeah, so glad to hear you had a good one as well.
Yeah, and I did way too much Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopping online. The coordination of Christmas presents always falls on me with my dad and my mom, and I'm like, guys, get you presents. I don't know why this is so hard.
So do y'all do like Secret Santas? I know you got a pretty good sized family, so.
Oh no. We expect presents for everyone and everything, but we do a lot of sharing of presents.
Okay.
So because we're greedy and we always want expensive things, I'll go in with you on this. Like for Christmas, I bought my mom and dad a new TV.
Nice.
And my brother agreed to split it with me. Has he given me his portion of money? No. So he shall take no credit in the gift until that has occurred.
There you go. Get that PayPal or Zelle to you fast, right?
Yeah. All right. To kick off things in the news, this MCU Marvel released a special open credit sequence to their MCU films as a Black Panther tribute to Chadwick Boseman on his birthday, very similar to Stan Lee and credits that they did for him.
Yeah, that was I did. I mean, of course, I saw the actual cut away on the on Twitter over the weekend, but I did just because me being me, I did go quickly to Disney Plus after watching the Mandalorian just to see it in context with the rest of the film, and it was a very, very fitting tribute to Chadwick, and definitely a nice touch, and with the purple hues of the Black Panther colors, and some of the not only scenes of him in various spots in the production of the film, but also in the film itself. So it was very nice, very nicely done.
Yeah. In other MCU news, Hawkeye is set to begin filming this week in New York City, and it has also been, I don't know if it's a rumor so much as it seems like it's pretty much confirmed, Florence Pugh from the unreleased Black Widow film is set to appear in not only that series, but she is also now reported to appear in the upcoming Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I missed that. Where was who broke that news?
I don't know who broke it. I saw Grace Randolph. She had some stuff about it, and then a bunch of other sites were reporting it as well on my timeline today.
Okay.
On this thing called Twitter.
Yeah, a little thing called Twitter. Well, we'll see what happens. With that. I guess with the Hawkeye news, I guess it was also saw that on Twitter, where I guess The Verge's one of their writers captured the set photo with the art anchor point, which I guess is the reference to the filming name for Hawkeye, which I guess it comes from comes from the comic book, and so that was going to start filming in New York City this week. So it looks like that's moving along, even though it kind of quietly kind of snuck up, because this we've gotten all these other things that have gone into production, but Hawkeye just kind of been out there, and whether or not even though we haven't had confirmation of who's going to be Kate Bishop, it's they are clearly, things are moving along well enough that they can start filming. So that's the MCU is going to be returning soon.
They are going to be returning soon, but they're really annoying.
Yeah.
All of this stuff about, oh, this series is going to connect to this. I honestly am mad that I heard today about this Florence Pugh thing because Black Widow hasn't been released. And now going into Black Widow, theories about it pretty much have been confirmed just based on this little news bit. So it sucks that so much of their intentions to kind of reset everything and launch this next phase has been put on hold, but they're still moving forward with all these projects and it's all coming. It just, I really think they should just cave and give us Black Widow.
They should just cave. I mean, it's just, at this point, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I get where they're trying to come from, trying to keep it still, theatrical release and stuff, but just drop it online already. But it's interesting about the Florence Pugh news, and see if that's just people spitballing and fan casting versus something that's true. Because I mean, we saw that with Tatiana Maslany with She-Hulk. So, and then of course,
but Florence Pugh has already been cast because she's gonna be a Black Widow.
Yeah, right. But
will that character then appear in Hawkeye as the new Black Widow? And
yeah, I mean, from what you've been able to tell, is it like? What I mean, what's the? I guess the question for me is like, I can't recall what the time period is for the Hawkeye series. Is it?
Well, like what you said, no one knows a lot about the series because they haven't announced Kate Bishop. Jeremy Renner, I don't even know if he's confirmed.
Yeah, I mean he apparently had been signed before, and then of course Haley Stansfield was rumored to be Kate Bishop, but then we've learned that she says she's not. So who knows what's going to happen? So
yeah, I don't know, but things are happening as per usual in the MCU, and when Feige wants us to know for sure what's going on, he will let us know.
Yeah.
He will make that happen. This is a weird, and I briefly saw this before logging on tonight, but Peter Dinklage is set to star in the updated Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, I just saw that news too. And he's got quite the career where he can go from the prestige TV to doing these types of projects as well. But are you familiar with the original Toxic Avenger?
Nope.
Okay, yeah. So Toxic Avenger was one of those like B movie in the 80s where you had this guy, everyman, who of course falls into a vat of toxic chemicals and basically becomes a hero. And it was one of those shows in a series that spun off multiple sequels, and it was kind of a story a lot like Evil Dead and stuff, or even Godzilla, where they're touching on environmental issues and stuff, but doing it in a very campy way with this particular with the Toxic Avenger. And so it looks like they're just updating the story to bring it up to the present day with Dinklage as the lead character. But it's definitely one of those old cult films that you definitely need to go check out sometime.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. Probably I won't. Something I will check out, but unlike Will, I try to avoid set photos, but I'm very excited for the Batman, and apparently the Daily Mail has shared set photos.
Yeah. So they shared some. This was news that broke after we recorded last week, but did want to share that again. I guess there was some photos of the exterior of the Batcave. And some other set shots as well with some scenes from around Gotham. And so, so there were some aerial photos of I guess the opening to the Batcave, and you can see where they can you know, put the cameras into various places to get different shots in the interior of the Batcave. So it looked pretty ominous as far as the set of the exterior of the Batcave itself.
Well, I'll see it.
You'll see it when it's done.
Like I said, that trailer, and I don't know how many times I've seen the trailer. Both just watching the trailer.
Are you triple digits now?
What?
Are you at triple digits now?
No, I'm probably not.
Okay.
Because I think after like the 10th viewing, I told myself I already know way too much. And so all of these other bits that are coming out, they excite me not to know what is shown and revealed, but to just remember it's still in production. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
It's still
I did see. Yeah, I did see. I didn't include this on the rundown, but when I was just cruising through Instagram this evening, I did see where I think some of the actors who were part of the gang had posted that they had wrapped filming. So I don't know if that's the all the principal photography's been done with the principal cast, or it's just other members of the cast. But I did see that late today.
Well, all good news. However, meanwhile, while some productions continue forward, others have been stalled. It has come out that The Flash has had to press pause on their production due to a positive COVID-19 test from a crew member.
Yeah, saw that over the weekend, and hope the crew member gets better. But again, I guess it's just a reminder to take everything with a grain of salt with production or release dates for shows. But I think they finished filming the first 3, because I did see where the titles, at least of those episodes, have been released. So, okay. But of course, even if they do get started, it may cause some scheduling issues down the road if they have to shut down for a period of time. So.
Yeah. I mean, granted, The Flash isn't set to return until February of next year.
Right. Yeah.
Which will be here before we know it if 2020 ever decides to end.
Yes. Well, exactly. Well, we're here. Welcome December.
Welcome. December. I told you it would come. I'm surprised that November went by so quickly, but after October, which felt like 3 months in one.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I'm not mad. The last bit of news is the original Darth Vader actor David Prowse has passed away.
Yeah, sad news about that. And speaking of COVID-19, I think I did see where he was did contract COVID-19, and I think that was the cause of his passing. But he lived a full life. He was 85 years old, and clearly, even though James Earl Jones was the voice, I mean, I think it goes without saying that Prowse's physical portrayal of Vader had just as much bearing on why this character is, clearly is so iconic, because of the physicality he brought to it and the imposing figure that he cast over the whole Star Wars universe, not only in the films but and beyond. So yeah, but still pretty sad news about that with the original cast. I don't know if you saw the photo of it's been making rounds on the internet with the original cast and of course Kenny Baker and Peter Mayhew and now David Prowse and Carrie Fisher.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, and they were all I guess they had the little silhouette like the Force Ghost thing around them, and of course Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill in that standing there too.
Yeah, like what you said, full life, got to, even though he didn't voice the character, he still got to suit up for set every day and act on that set, which is just a legendary set at this point. So I think that's a huge accomplishment and something that will just be in cinema from here until for like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And it's interesting because now we're going to transition and talk about Mandalorian, where you also have someone who dresses up as Mando and is on the camera, and you have Pedro Pascal who just voices the character, and to see that dynamic and there for a show that features a voice like Pedro Pascal, Mando doesn't talk a lot. He's not one
but when he speaks,
for the monologue.
He's not. But when he speaks, it speaks volumes. A Mando and a Jedi, they'll never see it coming.
Mando, a Jedi, and a child.
Yeah.
3 men and a baby.
Yep.
So, okay, Mandalorian season 2, episode 5, The Jedi. Everyone knows what happens in this episode. We all seen the screenshots. We all know who's there, what occurs, the makeup.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and the more I listen to other people talk about this episode, the more I am envious of those who have seen Rebels.
Mm.
And you were funny because after I watched it, you told me that when you finished watching it, you even managed to find the time to go and rewatch Clone Wars.
Just the movie.
Just the movie.
I watched the movie.
A lot of sand.
I've started, but I had mentioned before whenever we were talking about this season, I had watched Clone Wars the film some time ago. Caught a few episodes here and now on Netflix before Disney Plus of the Clone Wars series, because it had like 7 years, and Rebels has 4 years and 22 episodes each with Clone Wars with each season. Mm-hmm. And I remember, folks, obviously when Clone Wars came to an end, I believe it was earlier this year, late last year.
Yeah, it was earlier this year.
Yeah. How the fans were really talking about Ashoka and how that series came full circle. So I did. I mean, the one thing I will say that this season of Mandalorian has done for me as casual Star Wars fan is it opened up the door for me to go back and really watch the animated series that they're really basing a lot of this new series on. Obviously we all probably gone and read things and I've done that, doing prep for the show before we could have discussions about it. But I think I do feel a little envious, especially like you said, when you're hearing people talk about the moment they heard the name Admiral Thrawn, which I was familiar with Thrawn just from the the novels that were written in the 90s when there were no new Star Wars films. So I was familiar with the name, but I didn't, but not having seen how they have adapted the character for Rebels. So I did feel like I did miss out on that fandom moment that so many people I've heard listen to the podcast and talk about how they had that reaction. But
so on that note, here's what really where I was just like, damn, I need to go back and watch that series. So I was watching Kind of Funny and their reaction to the episode. And in it, one of the panelists explains how And they were good because they didn't spoil it. They really want people to watch Rebels. So they're like, I'm not going to tell you who. But yes, she mentioned wanting to know where Thrawn is. But in the show, Thrawn is with a different character, another character, and there's suspicions that is who she's really looking for.
Yeah.
So now all I want to know is who's that other character, and nobody tell us.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm glad you said that because I did find out who that other character is because it is critical to part of the mythos of Rebels. So and who Ashoka is looking for, and why that line had so much weight at the end of this particular episode.
Okay. After the show, you're gonna tell me.
No, I won't.
You will.
Oh, you could. Yeah, you know.
Is it Anakin?
No.
Okay.
There is another. No. Okay. See, yeah, there's another Jedi. I mean, I know who it is, and it also plays into some of the other discussions that you may or may not have heard about who Grogu will, whenever they go to Typhon, was it Typhon? It was the Jedi Temple planet that apparently is like real deep cut. I guess it was like referenced in, I think, Jedi Temple, one of the video games, or maybe in one of the other novels, but where they talked about, he would get, whenever Mando takes him to this planet, he could call out to other Jedis. This particular character is one that many people are speculating could be the Jedi that will come get him.
Interesting.
And for our listeners, I won't spoil it because, I mean, a lot of you are probably like Sarah, who have not read or watched the extended universe or watched or read any of the comic books that tie into these things. But but that's one of the characters that is out there, and really critical to not only what happened in Rebels, but apparently there's an epilogue in Rebels too that apparently Dave Filoni references in an interview he did. And Filoni, for folks who aren't familiar, is the co-showrunner with Jon Favreau and was the driving force behind the animated series that so much of Mandalorian season 2 was really based on this year.
Well, he directed this episode.
Yep.
And he also is the creator of Ahsoka.
Yep.
Ahsoka is his original creation.
Yep.
So
and he also
that he's behind the lens when she debuts.
Yeah. He's definitely Ashoka's like lead caretaker, and yeah, like I said, I mean, having watched the start of the Clone Wars film and seeing her interact, because she was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan.
Yeah.
And seeing how they got introduced to one another, and then I'm watching some of those early episodes of Clone Wars and seeing it now with the live action version of it. Granted, I'm not as deep in it as 7 seasons, but I did have the second time I watched the Jedi, I did have a better appreciation of how awesome of a job that Rosario Dawson did with the character, just when just dipping my toe back into the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it was great from start to finish for me with Ahsoka, because I did not come in with high expectations for, and so it hit all the right beats, and the fight choreography was brilliant in this episode. I really loved it. We got a lot of lightsaber action and just some cool moves and I like how there was so much, it was very bleak in terms of how the episode was, the cinematography of the episode. and even in the opening sequence, you had the fog, and she was able to manipulate it so that she could make all these kills without being really seen.
Yeah.
So a mysterious force, and I like that, especially to contrast Mando finally feeling like he's reached, like, this is the end of his mission with the kid. He can hand the kid over to this Jedi, and then the kid will be safe, and he can go on his way. And that doesn't end up happening, primarily because Ahsoka, she has a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
And this is coming from someone who's never seen Rebels, or Clone Wars, the animated show, because I believe there was an animated show called Clone Wars. Yeah. But I have heard enough about Ahsoka from others who have, to understand that, as you put it, she was his Padawan. Yep. And there is a very subtle reference to that exact relationship and how it turned out.
Yep.
It's exactly why she refuses to take Grogu under her wing, so to speak. But she also is on her own mission, clearly. So she's not Mando, who will collect all the orphans.
Yeah. I echo your feelings about the fight scene. And one of the things I really liked about this episode was it just like, and I know you didn't feel the same way about the episode last week with when they were with Carl Weathers and with Cara Dune and Greek Karga and stuff. But these last two episodes, at least for me, have really captured that Star Wars spirit that I think has been missing, and in some of the last couple of films.
Yep.
And like that scene in the garden where it truly is that mix of East and West. With the obviously George Lucas was very influenced by the samurai tradition. And, and clearly it was like on full, and that samurai Japanese tradition was fully on display with that very immaculate garden that the magistrate had, and even the fortress, surrounding the inner chambers, but you see in that. But then also you had the Western feel to it too, which of course, which Westerns also were influenced by that. So, so with that fight scene, it was very, a lot of times less is more. It was just beautifully, the way it was choreographed. I know some folk, it was almost like like a dance, the way they fought. And the thing that I thought too about the magistrate was, I thought about the character from Rogue One, who was force sensitive, even though he wasn't a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that she managed those fighting skills, and how she used the Beskar spear to deflect Ashoka's parries and stuff, and with it, it was really well done, and really just plus, and then and you have the contrast, so they're having that badass fight in the garden, but then you have Mando and the hired gun that she had for the magistrate, basically like standing there in almost standoff, and doing color commentary of what's going on, from what they're hearing from the lightsabers and the Beskar and everything, and who's trying to figure out who won. I mean, it was just so well done, and just the tension that that Filoni like managed to pull off there in that scene was just perfectly executed.
Yeah, there was something about it that felt very medieval
Mhm.
and very, very King Arthur-y, and it leaned heavily into fantasy,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing, and it's something that I think this series overall has been lacking for me now that I look back on it.
Mhm.
Because before, everyone is like, this is a Western. This is clearly bleeding into ideas about cowboys and Westerns that were huge right before the wave of sci-fi fantasy. And I
Mhm.
think with this episode, it really it maybe it was because it wasn't Mando necessarily coming in to save the day, but it was really about Ahsoka and her mission. Because let's be honest, she would have dealt with it had she be alone.
Mhm.
He was just there for the ride,
Yeah.
and and I really just appreciate those elements. And there was so much lore. And
Mhm.
something that you said about how it looked in terms of less is more, I think that plays into the writing of this episode, where there were so many little tidbits that were sprinkled throughout the dialogue that all of the silence surrounding it didn't feel like it drug on forever, or it didn't feel unnecessary when they did talk, because you wanted more. You wanted more dialogue. You wanted to know more about where Ahsoka's been, what her plan is. You wanted to know more about the child,
Mhm.
and we found out a lot about the child.
Yeah, we did. We
That's
really
so
did.
sad.
Yeah.
So sad. He was taken. He was
Yeah.
taken and tortured, and his self defense mechanism is to hide his powers. But
Yeah.
he loves Mando.
He loves Mando. And I think that's very interesting too, especially when I think about all the tragedy that Grogu, Baby Yoda felt and saw, because he witnessed Anakin destroying the Jedi Temple.
Mhm.
And I think fast forward and of course because of that he held back on his powers. And I think fast forward to the Last Jedi with Luke, and we learn again, because of another Skywalker destroying another Jedi, you know, academy with Ben Solo, causing Luke to draw back and withdraw from the Force because of fear. I guess in Luke's case, just the feelings of failure, and I guess with Grogu, with Baby Yoda, it's just a fear of maybe I don't know if it's maybe just he's so young at that point, so it's just like seeing these things that I've been learning about my first 20 years, because I mean I think that's he was it's about that age he would have been, so he's very young at that point for Yoda species. He has that, I guess, that fear of like, this could happen to me if I get these great powers, and it causes him to withdraw from it. And also because of the Empire too. I mean, that which does come into play as well, because if he does show his powers because he has such a high M count, uh, the Empire was going to, and the remnants of the Empire was going to use him for their evil purposes as well.
But he was kidnapped twice, right?
So he was hidden after, he was, and it didn't say who took him whenever the Jedi Temple was destroyed. It just said that he was taken
Right, right,
away.
right, right, right.
Right. And then somewhere along the line, Moff Gideon and his scientists were able to capture him from wherever he was hiding.
Right.
So
Okay.
so that's an open story point that I'm sure they'll explore at some point, about how he came into the clutches of the Empire.
Because I'm sure that also has to do with why currently he's been so I'm only gonna use it to steal eggs.
Yep.
Necessities, which
Yeah,
is
and,
funny
and blue macaroons.
because Mando really didn't need to use that piece from the ship. If he just had food,
Yeah, exactly.
it would take him.
Find some eggs or some blue macaroons, and we'd be good to go.
And let's be honest, if they got some food on them, he'd eat horses with that all the time.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
that's great.
Yeah, but speaking, I'm glad you. Yeah, but speaking of those training points, I mean, I thought that was another great moment about just using silence and using, and we were talking about David Prowse earlier, and now Pedro Pascal, whenever he is in the suit, or whoever is, whenever he does portray Mando in the suit, or the other body actor, how 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 voice and how body language can be used in an effective way to convey feelings. And the same with Rosario Dawson having to, play off this puppet of
Right.
of Baby Yoda, and so the facial movements and the things that she was doing just to to communicate, to convey that communications. I thought that was just so powerful a moment for during the episode. And like I said, only when I watched it the first time, but even more so the second time, when I could really look at the scene and just take it all in. And that to me was where the Ashoka character won me over. I mean, obviously there was the action, the cold open, as you noted in the rundown, that really set the great tone as far as the action aspect of this character. But really, as far as that connectivity with the Force and into the larger lore, that's where I really got it in this episode. And of course, it didn't hurt that they had the Yoda music playing in the background either.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. That it was funny because while I was watching the episode initially, when they first showed her, there was so much fog, and the makeup that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Originally I was like, is that CGI? What are they doing here? And it looks so much like from the show.
Yeah.
Like crazy. It takes a while to get used to it, but by the end of it, you're just like, yeah, that's Ahsoka.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was a practical effect too. Yeah.
There would be weird moments with the hair because clearly the hair is like all like covered with. I'm not going to get into it, but there would be weird moments with it. Just trust me on that. But overall, I just it was all executed so well that I could not find really any fault with it, and I was just like, yeah, okay, so here we go. We're going to the next mission, and I was so worried at the end. Like you mentioned at the beginning, the tension in the beginning, the tension at the end. Because Mando and his stupid open door policy, lock that thing up. He's got a very important good on his ship.
Yep.
Being very and I'm sure they did this on purpose because the amount of time I was just like, okay. And Moff Gideon enters now.
Yeah.
The tracking device. And Moff Gideon enters now. Oh no, it's Ahsoka. Okay. Flopper. Well.
Yeah, but I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was another, and to my point earlier about body language and how you can just do so much with those, how you use your body when you're acting. And I don't know if it was Pedro playing in Jaren this episode or if it was his double, but that father-son connection, that closeness, that where we wouldn't have seen that in Mando and then the first season, it was really conveyed in that scene where he was like, he went back to the ship and saw Grogu in the little hammock sleeping and talking to him, and then of course when it was it was getting him dressed and ready to go to give him to Ahsoka, that was a very heartfelt moment for me. I really it kind of, I don't know if it's because I'm a dad myself or what, but it just really tugged on me when it was like he was getting his son prepped to go off to college or go off to wherever, because it was just it was a real nice moment. Again, it was just all conveyed by body language and not necessarily dialogue.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're just soft. Second of all,
well, there's that. Yeah.
I think that was a good contrast, because early on in the episode, you realize that the child has formed an attachment with Mando. But in that moment, when he goes to say goodbye, clearly Mando has also formed an attachment.
Yep.
And that even catches him off guard, because this has been his purpose for however long they've been together. Like, he wants to get this child to safety.
Yeah.
Getting the child to safety is the end of the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And that means giving it up. And it's just like, whoa, Mando, you realize you're basically signing over custody.
Yeah.
So you've spent so much time with them. Is that really your purpose, or you haven't thought this through? Because he's never had a mission like this before.
Right.
To protect something as opposed to just be a bounty hunter.
Yeah. So I have to. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have to ask. So since we are discussing the end of the episode, and since Ahsoka basically says I can't train him, we'll have to just address the elephant in the room. So since they are going to have to go to this planet and they have to call out the call to a potential Jedi to train Grogu, what are your feelings about if we see a certain Jedi that we've referenced tonight, Luke Skywalker, or come to the series, or again, like I said earlier, without spoiling it for folks who aren't familiar with Rebels, there is another character out there that could be it, and I've heard some other names that's been tossed about as well. So, what are your feelings as far as a potential Skywalker tie-in?
Well, it's always a possibility. I would think it would almost be too soon, because one of the brilliant aspects of this show is that, yes, it takes place in the aftermath of certain portions of the Skywalker, whatever you want to call it.
Saga, yeah.
Saga?
Yeah.
But the Rise of Skywalker only came out last year.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And personally, I don't mind the movie as much as other people do. So I think as much as people would want that, it feels so early. So early. And also, I mean, last time a casual viewer saw Luke Skywalker was The Last Jedi, which never was controversial at all with the fans.
Not at all.
Maybe
Not at all.
because of what happens to Luke.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think the show needs a Skywalker tie-in. I think references and names is as far as it should go. But then again, would it make sense? Because I mean, I don't know exactly timelines, but this is a little bit before, if not way before. I mean, Ben Solo is probably a baby right now, right?
Yeah.
A baby, if not, maybe not even born.
Right. Because it's only 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So
yes. So Luke was probably in a better place, and so it would make sense with him. I think Obi-Wan would also be a better person, but given that we know the series is in production for that, I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, obviously I've been hearing I would be okay if it were Luke. I don't think it would be at the end of this season. What probably will happen, because we have 3 episodes left, so we have the tracker, so Gideon's going to catch up with them at some point, and so it wouldn't surprise me that this season ends up on a cliffhanger note where Gideon has captured Mando and Grogu, and that's where it ends. We don't get to the ancient Jedi temple on Tython. But if we were to get to it at the end of this season, and if we see like Luke or this other, because the other part of it too is with Ahsoka's journey. I mean, I don't think she's just going to be a one-off. So she could show up again, and she is on her quest to find this other particular character. So those 2 components to it. The other thing is, I mean, maybe no one shows up. Maybe Baby Yoda's reticence to learn more about the Force, he doesn't call out for it, and and that could be another possibility as far as allowing them to Mando and Baby Yoda to continue their journey as he continues to grow, and maybe things that happen with Gideon causes him to realize that, hey, I do need assistance to learn how to use this power that I have. So right. I think there's so many places where they can go with it, and obviously I think the two top theories is right now was like Luke and this other particular character that's been referenced for folks who know them from Rebels. But yeah, I think they like I said, it'll be one good option. I mean, as far as the Force goes, Qui-Gon. I mean, there's and there could be some unnamed. They could be creating a whole new character. I mean, as you noted, I mean, Filoni created Ahsoka in the Clone Wars series, and maybe Mandalorian will do that too, where they create their own character to be introduced in the show, like they've done with others.
So essentially what he's trying to say is he has no idea. He just really likes to theory spiral.
Hey, exactly. That's what we do. That's in our bio.
It's in our bio. Well, your theory spiral, I'm just looking forward to the next episode of The Mandalorian. I hope that it stays on this level. I don't really want to go back to previous episodes this season. The other thing that I watched this week, Will, was I checked out the new HBOMax original. I don't know if it's a full series or if it's just going to be a mini series, but The Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cooper.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I've been trying to decide if I was going to watch this one or not.
So they are doing this thing where very similar to what Amazon did with The Boys season 2. They dropped the first 3 episodes on Thursday, and so now it's week to week. And I watched one episode Saturday, one episode on Sunday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I watched so I had some space. I'm like on the fence about this show. There's aspects of it that I really like, and it's just mainly because Kaylee Kuko, she does a really good acting job, and her dynamics with the characters are funny, and I like. But there's another part of this where I'm just, this is so far-fetched. What is happening? Clearly, this is just not possible. And it walks a very thin line. How about I just say that? It walks a very thin line. And
thin line for
a really good job of closing each episode to a point where I have to watch the next one. The endings of the episodes are very much Okay, well, could have led with that.
So when you say it walks a very thin line, is it walks a thin line of like comedy and absurdity, or
Like dark humor.
okay.
But yeah, comedy and absurdity. And I was talking to people about it over the Thanksgiving break, and I was just trying to explain to my family. It was hard to get into it at first because a few years back there was another HBO miniseries called The Night Of with Riz Ahmed. And it's a brilliant TV series. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. HBO it's so well done. And that is very dark, very serious, very much true, like not true crime, but fictional crime that could be based on anyone being wrongfully convicted for something, for a murder. This has a very similar, pretty much identical premise, but it does not go that route.
Huh.
But then again, you're also dealing with the protagonist who's white and female.
Okay.
So I think I know why they didn't go that route. But the route they did go is kind of like, huh. And what? I don't know. You know me. If I watched the first episode and I wasn't into it, I would have stopped.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I felt compelled to watch the second episode, even more compelled to watch a third. And now I'm just looking forward to Thursday to watch the next. I don't know why. I think a lot of it has to do with limited content right now.
Yeah.
But I have managed to find more good than bad.
Okay. So it sounds like thinking of another series, like it was sort of like Run. I remember we had a very similar type of conversation. Your thoughts about that, where it was like it was enough to keep you around, but you could go. It sounds like at this point you can go either way. I mean, it's enough to keep you interested, but if that next episode or so is like really, then you can easily like take it and leave it, or leave it. Yeah.
Right. No, that's a fair comparison too, where it is past the 3-episode test, but that doesn't mean that it can't screw up.
Yeah.
And it's something else. I remember hearing about this like way back in May or something, and finally it dropped, and so that's another reason why I had to check it out, because I've seen so much hype over it.
Yeah.
My mom did read the book, and she really liked the book. There's some elements that, from what she tells me, they're not doing in the show though, which is kind of disappointing. But if you like Kaylee Cuoco, you'll like this. I think she kind of brings over some of her Harley Quinnism into the show.
Okay. Okay. Well, that'll get me there. That's getting me a little bit closer to watching it now.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's the good part of Harley Quinn or the annoying part. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJBelmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.